At the end of the day, it always comes down to the value of, or the word relevancy. Whatever's more relevant is going to come up to the top. So you've heard me mention before how I talk about respecting the platforms. So if you want the algorithm to work, if Facebook says to you, put in your name, your business, your website, your location, add keywords, if they're asking you to do that, it's not because they want you to do that. They need that data so that they can connect you with relevant things on social media. They want to connect you with relevant things.
Welcome to the Digital Approach Podcast. This show is brought to you by Orion Media Group with the goal to help you, an inspired business owner, remove the overwhelm from marketing in the online world through success stories and practical strategies from entrepreneurs that have done it. There's plenty to come in this episode, so let's get into it. Social media, the thing we as business owners love and loathe. It's a big beast to tackle and can often leave us feeling lost on what to do, confused with new algorithm updates, and wondering what makes one post work and another post flop. It can be challenging at times to try and work with the algorithms to get followers to see your posts without having to hit that big blue boost button. My guest today is an expert social media marketer who, over the past decade, has worked in the fitness industry, beginning as a personal trainer, working around 3 small children after emigrating from South Africa to the Gold Coast in 2008. Initially, Chantal Gerardy worked for other people, but like all true entrepreneurs, she saw how she could improve on the current model of delivering personal training, opening her own health, wellness, and fitness business in 2010, even though in a new country, knowing no one, with no marketing budget, startup capital, or tech experience. Now, fast forward a few years and a lot of trial and error later, using social media to grow her business, this new experience led Chantal to helping other health, wellness, and fitness businesses and began to invest in learning how to be a better coach to business owners on how to use social media without paying for ads and winning the Empowered Mums Award in 2015. Since then, Chantal has been nominated in the top 100 coolest companies in Australia, top 10 business strategists to watch out for in 2021, and has won other international and national awards for out-of-the-box marketing, innovation, and education. Chantal is featured worldwide as a speaker and podcaster, as well as sharing her knowledge on radio and Channel 9 News, and today, this podcast. So Chantal, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show to share your experience.
Thanks so much, Ryan. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And we've just heard a little bit about your journey so far, but I wanted to ask you, to get to where you are today, was there one significant turning point that led you down this path?
Definitely. I think, when I was literally crying and frustrated and had absolutely no money, being in a new country and having, 3 small children and having to start again, there were just so many programs that you could download online and so many ebooks and so many people telling you to do this and to do that. And, and it was so overwhelming and frustrating and nothing ever seemed to work, which was incredibly disappointing for me. And I think one of the biggest aha moments for me was when I realized that when people say, be more visible, be more visible, be more visible, it's not about being more visible. For me, what I learned is that you actually have to have an overall strategy of how you're going to use these platforms. And instead of taking little bits and pieces, it's kind of like baking a cake, okay? When you bake a cake, you got to put all the ingredients in, and if you get any of the measurements wrong, the cake's just not going to work. I remember the one time making a cheesecake, and instead of using cottage cheese, I used cream cheese or something, and it was disgusting. And that's exactly how social media is. And for me, it came down to when you have that strategy and it's an income producing strategy, and when you refine it and you tweak it and you get it working, it is literally life-changing because you do not have to spend your life online, and it can be rewarding, it can be enjoyable, and you don't have to pull your hair out anymore.
That's great, especially when you don't have to pull your hair out, because I like my good head of hair. But that's a great realization to come to, with that you've got to have that strategy to really get it right and start to communicate and talk to people in the right way, especially your own audience.
Yeah, 100%. I always say you have to respect the platforms that you're on, and you have to respect the audience that is on those platforms. So regardless, you've got to have an overall strategy of how you're going to use social media, but then you've got to tailor that strategy to accommodate the platform so that you can get the most out of that platform and really milk that algorithm. But you also have to be respectful to the audience, or there'll be disconnect and that strategy won't work.
There are fantastic points in there just to at least kick us off. I think we're going to dive a bit deeper into that today, that's for sure. So let's take a look at some of the strategy side of it. Can you share, to start off with, the difference between organic and paid growth and how that social media landscape has changed since you started your own business back in 2010?
Yeah, happy to. So firstly, I want to put this right out there. I created a 6-figure business using organic marketing. I did no paid advertising, and up until this point, which is 2021, almost 22, I still do not do any paid advertising in my business. Everything is organic. So when people say, does organic still work? I go, well, I'm a testament to it, and all the clients that work with me is a testament to it. The thing is that we have to realize is social media platforms are businesses. They make money from advertising. So they are always going to be asking you to do paid advertising. So none of the strategies that I do or teach are around paid advertising. However, the customer journeys and the funnels that we create certainly help paid advertising to get a better return on investment. Because if you do not get the basics right, it will not work. So too many people, and it's exactly the same as the fitness industry, where everyone's looking for a magic pill. They don't want to exercise. They don't want to watch what they're eating. They just want it now, and they want it yesterday. And unfortunately, you've got to get the basics right. So if you've got a strong, organic, professional online presence, and you've respected the platforms and set up your profiles correctly, and you have an overall strategy that considers your audience, the offer that you have, and how you're going to effectively communicate to them, and then you have a growth strategy on how you're going to be able to pull or point people towards your profile. For example, like this podcast, it's a way for me to be in front of someone else's audience and pull them back to my audience, which is a growth strategy. If you have those fundamentals in place, you will grow your profile, you will grow your online visibility, you will start to generate leads. And when you have that right, by all means, you may then wish to explore the paid advertising route. But unfortunately, what happens is a lot of times people don't have the strategy. They don't have a professional profile that is set up correctly. The amount of people that do not have their accounts set up correctly and they're doing paid advertising is shocking. And they do not understand who their customer is. They're not clear on what their offer is. They're not sure how to effectively communicate it. It doesn't matter how much money you put behind it. And it's going to cost you a lot because you've got to pay someone to do it because they're a professional and it's changing all the time. Plus you've got ad spend, and it usually takes 3 months to get a result. So, I mean, if you're a millionaire, go for gold, give it a crack. But for most entrepreneurs and business owners that are starting out, they simply don't have the budget. Now, I hear what everyone's thinking. They're going, well, I just don't have the time and I just don't know what I'm doing. The thing is that if you do know what you're doing, it's not going to take a lot of time and you are going to enjoy it. It's the same as when you started driving a car. When you got in the car and you didn't know how to drive and you were freaking out and panicking and you may not have looked forward to getting in that car the next day. Now you just get in the car and you drive it every day. No worries. It's second nature, and it's exactly the same.
It becomes a habit at that point then.
100%. I think people are too quick now to outsource things. And what I learned, firstly, I didn't have the money to do it. I didn't have the budget. I didn't have the money to do it. So I had no choice but to get it right and to spend, 20 minutes a day on getting my strategy right and getting it generating customers. And then it's just test and trial, and you get up and you do it. So what's 20 minutes in a day to generate paying customers? It's not a lot at all. And at the end of the day, it comes back down to relationships. And a lot of people, too quick to outsource it, as I mentioned. But unfortunately, you sometimes are outsourcing your voice. You're relying on them to implement a strategy, which is usually cookie cutter and fluffy. It's not usually specific to you and your audience. And sometimes, we do this too quickly. And of course, because business owners don't know what's right or wrong and they don't have the overall strategy, They can't oversee what those people are doing, unfortunately. So I always say, get the foundations right, get the basics right first, and then it's time to look at paid advertising. Then it may be time to outsource it.
They're fantastic. And this kind of comes back to something that I've heard before, and a bit of a common misconception in the industry from what I've been, from conversations that I've had with people, is that you've got to invest a lot of time, and you've touched on this, and I just want to take this a bit deeper. And the old saying goes that, if you pay for something, it's the product. If you use something for free, you are the product. And I just want to say here is, if you're spending your time, are you being the product? Or if you're paying for advertising and you're trying to get those results a bit quicker, are you using the product then? So can you just dive a bit deeper into that distinction for us and how that can actually save people time doing it the organic way?
Yeah, sure, 100%. And again, it just comes down to those basics. Most business owners have got to decide how they want to be seen online, whether or not they want to be the face of their business or not be the face of their business. Many of the people that I work with are in niche industries, or they have a niche product that they are selling, which means they have a voice. They have a voice, they have brand identification. And when you outsource that to someone else and you give someone else the opportunity to manage that for you, it can lose that. It's kind of like sending your virtual assistant out to a date and saying, hey, listen, I don't have time to go and, sit and have a date with this guy today. So can I just send you across there and have a little conversation with them and see if we're going to take it to the next level? And unfortunately, this new world we live in this world where they talk about laptop lifestyle. Well, it's all easy and it's all balanced. I mean, that's a whole lot of hogwash. There is a smart way to do things, but most of us start out doing things the hard way and then have to learn, and then figure out what the smart way is. So it's really important that we just look at some of the misconceptions and go, well, laptop lifestyle is one of those misconceptions. And the other thing is you should enjoy every aspect in your business. What a load of hogwash. There's many aspects inside your business that I'm sure you do not enjoy. For me, I'm hyperactive. I love to be outside. I love to be playing. I don't want to be sitting here in front of the computer. Yes, I do love talking, but I don't love being in front of the computer. So there's aspects of the business that I don't like to do, but I know what needs to be done, and I appreciate and value what those things are inside my business. And I know them enough so that if, for example, I'll give you an example, there was a whole bunch of grants that came out in Australia. And one of the coaches I worked with had a massive database. And I said to him, why don't you email out to your database, because you could potentially get these $5,000 government grants from your database. It's a massive cash infusion. And he said to me, my VA has just got COVID. She's unwell, and I don't know how to send an email to my database. And when grants come out, that you've literally got 3 to 5 days to kind of get everyone up and running and going. But he could not send an email. So we have these things inside our business. We've got to make set up that firstly, they're the right things. Secondly, that you do have an understanding of how they work and the importance of them. And then by all means, as I said, you can outsource them to somebody else. But I think sometimes a little bit too quick to give away the things that are really important in our business. They're the lead generators. They're the things that make you money. Too quick to give it out. And I think we're too quick to go, well, I don't like doing that, so I'm just not going to do that part. I'll just give it to someone else. And when you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. So
that's fair enough. And just going back to your laptop lifestyle, I've actually been quite fortunate in that I've been able to live that lifestyle, and it's not as freeing as you think it is. I've been able to travel the world and take a laptop and a camera bag and pretty much everything I needed in a backpack. And yeah, you're spending a lot more time behind the computer than most people usually make out that is the case. And you're not spending so much time outside playing and coming back. So what you're saying is, being able to outsource is great, but having those tools and systems in place that you can use, if you set them up when you're on the road or something, for your laptop lifestyle. But once you've got them done, then you can start to outsource them. And this is where your strategy is really important, so that you know that everything is being followed and that system's being followed, correct?
Yeah, 100%. So I focus on three things that I realize that really do make a business owner successful when they manage their own online marketing. And that is number one, skills. You have to invest in yourself and you've got to get them skills. You know, whatever you've got inside your business, you've got to know how to use those things and you've got to develop your skills. You've also got to develop, your mental health and things like that. As a business owner, it's really important. Number two is having that strategy. And a strategy is all about you getting money in the end. So a lot of time people go, oh, my strategy is to get more followers, or my strategy is to get more visibility, or my strategy is to get engagement. That's never what it is. My strategy is to get paying clients. So if that is the end, we now have to work backwards to go, what is that process of doing it? And yes, branding, visibility, and all those other things may be in there along the way, but ultimately you have to follow through. A couple of my favorite F words is follow up and follow through. You've got to follow through until it makes money. So visibility on its own, engagement on its own, growing your profile, just doing endless podcasts. If there's no strategy about converting that into paying clients, it's not an income producing strategy. The third one is around systems. And this is really important because what I learned is, one of my big dreams and my vision boards was I wanted to travel around, get paid, and get paid to do what it is that I do. And literally the day before COVID came and they all stopped the airplanes, I was about to embark on this trip, and I was about a third of the way through. And I was getting paid, I was going around, but I still had to take my clients, send out emails, follow up on things whilst presenting and generating more leads, and then, onboarding those new clients. And I realized, you know what, you have to have your systems and your processes in place, because when you start to generate those leads, it has to be an easy process. It's got to be easy for you and it's got to be easy for the customer. And often we lose out on a sale because there's something glunky in our system. It's like a 10-step system, or your payment online system isn't user-friendly and people are just losing out on money. So those are the three things I generally focus on: skills, strategy, and systems.
I love those, and especially the systems part. I think that's an incredibly important part, and it's something that is kind of a theme that's going to be carrying through not just this episode, but all the other episodes on the podcast as well. So with business owners and people listening now having an understanding that strategy is the most important thing, how on earth are they going to know which platforms to choose and use to talk to their customer?
This is an easy one, believe it or not. Firstly, I always look at, where are your customers hiding out? Like, where do they hang out? Where do they hide out? Where do they engage? Where are they the most active? All right. Now, often I hear, with the B2B space, it's on LinkedIn. But if you look at the amount of users on LinkedIn and the amount of active users on LinkedIn versus Facebook, you do have to look a little bit more carefully at that. So I always say, look at the potential of that platform. Look at the audience within that platform. But the second part of that is, where do you enjoy hanging out as well? Because for me, I believe that if the business owner enjoys that platform, they're more likely to show up, they're more likely to engage, and they're more likely to use that platform. It's kind of like when you go to a personal trainer and the personal trainer makes you do 1,000 burpees and you hate burpees, you're never going to go back. It's exactly the same. Whereas, there's other ways to do it. So for me, I love Facebook. 93% of business owners use Facebook. There's 3.8 billion active users on there. There is B2B stuff happening. There's a lot of B2C, but there's a lot of B2B referrals that do happen through Facebook. So I always go, where you're going to put your time and your attention. What percentage of your time and attention are you going to put on that based on the potential and the amount of money that you can make? And then for me, I just have branding consistency around the other platforms to support what I'm doing on your primary platform. Because you cannot go, and if you've got massive resources, you can. And if you don't want to, if you've got massive hours to spend online, you don't have to be. For me, I've got an Instagram presence and I respect the platform. I've got a LinkedIn presence, I respect the platform. But for me, Google, number one player in the world. Too many people do not respect Google as a platform. Whereas Google's number one, and YouTube is Google. So, get your Googles right. I always say, get your Googles right. Make sure you've got Google My Business. Make sure you've got a YouTube channel. You know how to use it. Facebook's number 2, and Facebook is taking over the world. It's not going anywhere. So make sure that you do invest in it. And of course, from a professional perspective, you do want to be on something like LinkedIn. A lot of people then ask about, Instagram Reels, TikTok, Snapchat, and all those fun little ones. And I always say to people, if you don't feel comfortable doing that, don't do it, because chances are you're going to look like a dork and no one's going to buy from you. It's not going to do your brand any justice. Whereas if you love that sort of vibe, then and your audience is on there, by all means, go on there, but make sure that it's an income producing strategy and it's not just a fulfilling thing that you like to do for attention, because there's ego metrics and then there's income producing strategy, 2 very different things.
So Chantal, what you've shared just there is fantastic. And I just want you to expand on that a little bit, is using social media and getting these strategies. These are platforms that, they're great to have followings and audiences, but if something was to happen, for example, say Facebook shut down for 6 hours like it did not that long ago, and a lot of people seem to lose their minds very quickly, what happens if you do get shut down or a platform gets lost? With the metaverse, it's not going to happen with Facebook, at least for a very long time, from my point of view. But if something was to happen to one of your primary channels, say, for example, you lost your Instagram account, what's going to happen with your followers, and how can you kind of give yourself a fail-safe for that?
Oh, great question. When Facebook originally, it was a couple of years back, it had its first shutdown, everybody freaked out. And because Facebook created an appointment setting within Facebook, all the beauticians and hairdressers were all using the appointment setting within Facebook. And of course, one of my fundamentals of social media strategy is get the hell off social media. Like, get your clients off social media. Do not keep them hanging there. And what happened when it originally closed is people had no idea. So all these beauticians and hairdressers had no idea if clients were coming in for a perm, a color, a cut, or what their name was, because they used the appointment setting within Facebook. So I always say, have a strategy that results in you getting people off. And this is something I learned on Tinder, and I have written a blog on this about what Tinder taught me about social media. But if you are talking and texting backwards and forwards online, they go cold, they start looking elsewhere, they get distracted, they don't take it seriously, and they will drift off into the background, possibly never to come in front of your timeline again. So one of the strategies is is the whole thing around social versus salesy. So don't be too social, but also don't be too salesy, getting that balance, and then getting them into a call, getting them onto your database, into an opt-in, into a challenge, or even if you're getting them into a Facebook group, make sure that you have the email address. Because at the end of the day, if you want to be able to contact them or let them know what's going on, if a platform is down, at least you have data, at least you have their contact details.
I truly believe in that as well, and being able to spread one person across multiple varieties of contact points within your business is a great opportunity for so many people. And I just want to take you back to Tinder here for a second, because you've got a bit of a story there. I'd just love you to share if you could.
Yeah, sure. So I had a midlife awakening and I left my husband and opened up my health, wellness and fitness center and decided that, and created this whole new business out of absolutely nothing. In fact, happy anniversary to me. A Facebook memory came up. 3 years ago, I got my diploma in social media marketing. So it just came up as a Facebook memory. So really excited. I do things backwards. But one of the things is that I wasn't sure who I was or what I wanted. And when I went onto Tinder, initially you put on all the good pictures and all the fancy pictures. And for me, it's all around personal branding, right? And you go, look at me, look at me, look at me. And you talk about all the nice things. And I got all these complete douchebags, going, hey, baby, and whatever. And it was such a waste of time. And I honestly did feel like sending my VA to go on and vet every one of the dates. But just before I was going to go off Tinder, I decided, you know what, I'm going to try it a different way. I'm going to put not my worst photos, but I'm going to put my day-to-day photos, my ones where I'm not a makeup girl, I'm very, very casual, I'm always in gym wear, I love my dog, crawling around the floor, playing, doing things. I'm going to put that up. And then I'm going to describe my perfect day and how I am. Like, I'm a morning person, I'm very active, I talk all the time. And I basically said exactly how I am. And showed photos of exactly how I am. And I found my partner on Tinder, and we've been together for almost 6 years. So there is a blog on my website around that, but a lot of things I learned was, one of the things is that when you're on social media, establishing who you are and how you want to be seen, and just, when they talk about being genuine, that's what it means. It's okay if you don't wear makeup. It's okay if you dress like this. Like, whoever you are, that's fine. But just go out confidently with that thing and just own it. And what'll happen is like will attract like, and you will come right.
That's a great little saying. And it really emphasizes the point, and this is kind of where a trend has happened, is people want to see real people. There is a place for professionally branded images and those high quality things, but then people still want to see the real person behind the brand, behind the name, behind the professional look. They want to see who that person really is, because that'll help develop the know, like, and trust factor as well.
Definitely. So when it comes to social media, there's a couple of things that I always say that you should be repeating through your social media. And the one is your story. So your personal story. People need to connect with you, the person, especially if you're a coach. Like I said, I work with a lot of niche-based, product-based businesses or coaches, which means they're really passionate about their product and there is a story behind that. So in order to get people to choose you and invest in you, you have to tell that story, your story, because people will connect with it and go, you're personable, you're relatable, I get it, and now they're invested in it, and now you're special to them. I always say, make yourself memorable like McDonald's. The second part of that is then telling your business backstory. So what was the journey of how you got to where you are today? People want to not only hear about the triumphs, but they want to hear about the failures. People love hearing about the failures. They absolutely love it. And it's social media, so it needs to be social, meaning it's a two-way conversation. And again, the Tinder reference. But if you sat down at a table with a new person you've just met and you just went, me, and you never asked the person about themselves or asked them to tell their story or showed interest in them, you wouldn't get a second date, right? And it's exactly the same on social media. And that's how people end up getting scrolled over and fading into the organic or algorithm background.
That's it. And then the algorithm will start to reduce those people if they're not connecting with their audience and connecting with people.
Yes, look, 100%. I actually did a training yesterday on the algorithm and on the platforms, and I love the algorithm. The poor algorithm gets such a bad rap all the time because everybody blames the algorithm. And the algorithm's learning and it's changing and it's adapting all the time. But if you're on social media, you'll just ride the wave. At the end of the day, it always comes down to the value of, or the word relevancy. Whatever's more relevant is going to come up to the top. So you've heard me mention before how I talk about respecting the platforms. So if you want the algorithm to work, if Facebook says to you, put in your name, your business, your website, your location, add keywords, if they're asking you to do that, it's not because they want you to do that. They need that data so that they can connect you with relevant things on social media. They want to connect you with relevant things. So making sure that you set up and respect the platform and set it up correctly, that's really important. But then the use side of it's really important. You've got to make sure that you are creating relevant content that is relevant to your audience, that you are getting reviews, that you are consistent, that your profile's been set up properly and you're using it on an ongoing basis, and that people are coming on and liking and engaging. But the third part of that is making sure that it's not just selfish. You're not just sitting and looking after your page, but you're going out onto social media and you're showing interest in your customers, showing interest in your referral partners, showing interest in your networking mates, and showing, interest in the industry, because then you just get the tick, tick, tick. You're doing all the things right, and the algorithm will go, well, that's great. You're ticking all our boxes. So what we're going to do is, you're making it really easy for us to see the kind of things you're interested in. So what we're going to do is we're going to put you in front of people who are interested in that, and we're going to match you.
They're fantastic kind of insights into what the algorithm is looking for, because I know that's a huge question that so many people ask, and just blaming the algorithm is kind of the go-to response for most people. I know that in the early days, I even did it as well. I'm guilty of that. So part of the topic of this episode is fast and free growth on social media. So now that business owners, they're listening to this, they've got an idea of what they want to do for their strategy, they know who they want to talk to, and they know what platforms they're on, how can they then start to use that organic growth to grow quickly?
Look, one of the best things that business owners can do, and seriously, if you just do this one thing, it is going to change your life on social media. And it is something that really made me accelerate my skills online. It is called competitors analysis. If you go onto social media and you have a look at your competitors and you look at their branding, their key messages, their reviews, the type of content, track their customer journey of how they're generating leads and where they're taking people to. Look at the website and see where people are ending off and how they're taking payment. Going even onto their email list and having a look at that. Not so you can copy them. This is so that you can differentiate yourself from them, because that is what social media is about. You will see from them what you like or what you don't like. You'll get some really good ideas. So don't just do one. Definitely do about 3 to 5. And it will seriously help you progress as a business owner. That includes, the number 2 would be become a stalker. Be the best, again, something I learned on Tinder. Be the best stalker ever. Firstly, stalk yourself. Imagine that you don't know yourself and go through your personal profile, your business page, your website, and go, if I didn't know myself or what I did, does this make sense to a stranger? And then go and stalk your ideal customers. Now, I must say this. Your ideal customer loves what you have to sell and is prepared to pay you for it. Too many people I work with come to me and go, they've got no money, they don't want to buy this product. Well, either your product's wrong or your audience is wrong, because people are out there, they are spending money. You've just got to be very clear on who they are. And if you're not, you'll continually attract the wrong people into your business. And you can price yourself in or out of the market. And that's why that competitors analysis is really important as well. So go and stalk your customers online, see where they are hanging out, take note of the language that they use, because mirroring the language is really important. Showing interest in what they're interested in is really important. And creating conversations and asking them questions and involving them in your marketing or in your business is going to keep them on your side. It's going to make you memorable.
That's fantastic. And there's one thing that you just mentioned in there, which was if your products aren't working or if you're not talking to the right person. And I love the saying from Seth Godin, don't find customers for your products, find products for your customers. And that's where this kind of comes into is, you're finding what these people want, what this particular type of person wants, talking to them and tailoring your message to their needs, your products to their needs, and just being of service rather than thinking of selling all the time. You're actually trying to be of service to that particular person, which is kind of switching the script. Yeah.
100%. It's not selling, it is serving. I say that all the time, so 100% in agreement with you there. One of the other things is that when you are stalking your customers and you're getting to know them really well online, it's going to make it really easy for you to then to be able to communicate what it is that you have. Where a lot of business owners go wrong is they start to use their own big words and they try to get creative and they give things really cool and quirky names when it's a lot easier to just say it is what it is, because that takes the confusion out of it, because a confused mind buys nothing. So if you're, a lot of the time, and this happened to me in the fitness industry as well, is that you forget the journey of how you were before you knew what you knew. And if you can understand or dig deep and just journal and go, how did I feel and what did I know and what was I looking for before I knew what I know now? That is what you're marketing. You're not marketing the deliverables. Too many people market the deliverables. They market the deliverables or they market the big fancy words, and a confused mind, as I said, will buy nothing.
That's it. And this, I just want to elaborate on that a little bit, is especially if you're in an industry, say tech, photography, social media, there's a lot of industry terms that a new person coming into that space or trying to learn or understand that space will have absolutely no clue what they mean. You know, if say, for example, I talk to someone about what an aperture blade is, you know, most people listening may or may not understand that. But if someone's new coming into the industry thinking, what the hell's inside this lens? And I say an aperture blade, what? It's like, yeah, it's these little blade things. There's little circle things that open and close. That's it.
So my question to you would be, what are those blades going to do for me and my photos? Are they going to make me look skinnier? Am I going to look hotter? Am I going to look taller? That's all I'm interested in. What's in it for me? So it has to be customer and outcome focused. That's what it comes down to.
That's it. And there's a couple of things that you've covered in here. There's been so much great insight so far. I think people listening probably need a notepad and pen. And if you're driving, maybe just go back and re-listen to this podcast again when you're just sitting in a nice space and you can listen and just take notes because there's so much great stuff shared. Now, usually I ask people to share 3 strategies at the end of each episode. But one of them that I'd like to kind of lead you into would be, could you share a bit more about what the review process looks like for your own social media, say, for example, on a Facebook page? Because I know that Facebook's your go-to platform. So I'd just love one of those strategies to be the review process and what that looks like for business owners to start doing.
Yeah, excellent. So reviews are incredibly important because when you get a review from your customer and they go and they put it on a platform on Facebook, their friends get notified. And in fact, many of you may not know, but if you go to your personal profiles, you will see the reviews that you left on other places there. So it gives the business credibility. And of course, people can always go on. For me personally, I always say to business owners, please go out and onto Facebook and check my over 170 positive Facebook reviews because it gives me credibility because people can see that other people think you're great too. You're not just talking about how great you are, but you actually do have evidence of it. On Google My Business, because you know Google's number 1, Google My Business is really important as well because it's Google. So you want to make sure that you're getting Google reviews. I usually say to people, have your Google review and your Facebook link. You know, you could have it at the bottom of an email signature. However, the best time to get a review is literally when you're sitting in front of somebody. When they have just expressed gratitude to you and they have said, that was freaking amazing. That was awesome. I literally say to them, do you have your phone here? Could you just jump onto Facebook? Could you click the review tab? Please click yes. And I'd love it for you to talk about how you felt before and how you felt after and what your favorite part of our program was. So I give them a little bit of direction because else what will happen is they'll go, hey, she was great. And that's going to do nothing because at the end of the day, reviews are also, especially on Google, they are keyword phrases. So when strategy keeps coming up, you will get points and tags for every time somebody mentions the word great strategy or great coaching. And it helps you to be put in front of more Google people. So your chances of getting a review drastically diminish when you walk away from the person. It is better to get it right then and there, and in fact even help them, because most of the time people are happy to give you a review, but on Facebook it's really awkward because you have to click review and then they look and there's no place to write and they go, oh, they feel stupid. They always feel stupid, especially men, and they don't want to ask and say, hey, what's going on here? So they don't say anything. They go, I'll do it later, and they keep going to reviews and there's nowhere to write. They don't understand. You have to click yes. If you don't click yes, it won't open and you can't leave a review. If you leave a review on Facebook with an image and on Google, you definitely get a lot more reach as well. So it's incredibly important to say to people, hey, I'd love it if you could take a quick picture or something and share it on the platform too. But once it goes out in emails, it's a lot harder. You could run a review competition. It's very important for you to note, though, you're not allowed to ask for positive reviews. However, you are allowed to ask for a review. So often I say to my clients, email out, and Rockware does this as well. They give out a $50 voucher per month. They say, thank you for your purchase. We give out $50 voucher per month to anyone who leaves a review in a calendar month. And if you run a calendar month competition, I know a lot of mechanics and people in the trades industry I work with are doing it at the moment. It's working quite well. basically you just go in and you can choose a person. There's a lot of apps and things that you could do to spin and choose a winner, and obviously deliver, make sure it's public and deliver on what it was. But you could encourage them through that, but definitely you do want to get them to use words. So it's a lot better for you to sit there and sort of coach them through that.
They're great. And I just want to jump in here and say that when someone does leave a review, and this goes back to an earlier point you were talking about with people's language, when someone leaves a review, it's in their words, even if you have just added a little bit of coaching in there, but it's still in their words. You can then use that language in your marketing to continue building your word cloud, for example, of what words your customers are using and how they can be shared throughout your marketing to connect with more people like them.
Yes, 100%. So for us, we've got an Excel spreadsheet. Whenever a person leaves a review and mentions a particular service that I offered, that goes into that category. So if I write an email or if we do a landing page on the website, we can simply go to that review, take a screenshot of it, and use it in our marketing as credibility.
That's fantastic. And that was strategy number one. If you could share a couple more for us that business owners could start to implement after listening to this podcast or re-listening to it and writing notes.
Yeah, sure. I'm actually going to talk about the left-brained people. So I'm very much a right-brained person. So creativity, storytelling, that type of stuff really does it for me. But it's important to note that many of our customers are left-brained. And because they're left-brained, it's really important that we include statistics and we include quotes from other reputable people, because that is how they get their credibility. So credibility from a testimonial success story is not going to do it for them as much as if, for example, Harvard University says that 93% of business owners use Facebook as their primary platform. That's going to get them across the line because a recognized establishment has said that. So in your marketing, it's important to use those statistics. It's important to use those findings, and it's important to use those quotes, because that's going to help get a yes from the left brain people.
That's a really interesting point that I don't think a lot of people think of. I know that there's a lot of messaging out there to get people to buy from the emotional side of the brain and kind of back it up with logic. But those statistics will really help to trigger that kind of additional purchase decision and reinforce that, yes, this is actually the right decision for me.
Yes, 100%. My next one would be, and I did touch on it earlier a little bit when I spoke about competitors analysis. It's not so that we can copy our competitors. It's so we can differentiate ourselves. Marketing is all about differentiation. So point of difference is really important. If you literally have, I'm a whiteboard girl. There's a massive whiteboard in my lounge, much to my daughter's dismay. But I love a whiteboard, and I'll go in and write everything that makes you different, and even ask your customers, what those things are. But, I always say that I'm practical. I always say that I'm non-techie. I like to have fun. And if you know those things and those are my points of difference, those are things that I'm going to bring to my consultancy or my coaching. So people who like that type of thing or are looking for something different, they are then going to be attracted to you. So really get clear on what your point of difference is, and remember that you are part of your unique selling point. You are part of your unique selling point. So have some personality, and you don't have to be a clown like me, and like I've got a little cartoon character that I use as part of my marketing, but that's how I am as a person. But when it comes to your marketing, just focus on that point of difference, and don't worry if it's a little bit left field, if it's a little bit controversial. It's absolutely okay. There is someone for everyone. There is a product and a service for everyone, and there's a buyer for everyone. So don't worry about it. In fact, it is better for you to be like that and to be a little bit off center than for you to try fall into a mold of cookie cutter and fluffy, because cookie and cutter and fluffy doesn't work.
Yeah, looking exactly the same as everybody else. And back in episode 1 of the podcast, we spoke with Russell Cummings, who I know you know, and we had a terrific conversation about building a know, like, and trust factor. But we ended up talking about, or sort of mentioning in there, the book Purple Cow, and how so many people have become purple cows that sometimes it's okay to be a black and white one and actually stand out from the standout crowd. And look different and differentiate yourself. So that's fantastic. Chantal, it has been amazing to talk to you, and I know that the listeners have got so much value out of this episode. Could you, we'll link everything in the show notes, but could you just share where we can find out a bit more about you?
Look, the best place to connect would be on my website, which is chantalgerardy.com.au. Check the spelling. And definitely to subscribe. There's heaps of free resources on there, checklists and templates and calendars and a whole bunch of other really cool stuff. But I'd love for you to subscribe, mostly because we send out tips. So when new stuff happens, so for example, Facebook Reels are getting launched. They're not quite here in Australia yet, but I share that in my newsletters. And when there's government grants that come out, you will be the first to hear. And of course, I'll share a little bit more about, my story and any other tips along the way. So connecting on the website would be a fantastic place to start.
We'll certainly link that down in the show notes. And there's also another link that we've got down there from you for some free resources as well that people can go on and get a bit more education and connect with you there too. So Chantal, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It has been amazing to have you and really appreciate you sharing your knowledge and expertise so openly with everybody listening.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much, Ryan, for the opportunity.
That brings us to the end of today's episode. I really hope you've got some great value from it. If you're not subscribed yet, be sure to do so where you get your podcasts. As an inspired business owner, you can join the Digital Approach podcast community for free over on Facebook. Just click the link in the show notes. It's a growing community and I'd love for you to be a part of it. If you'd like to find out more about what I do and grow your business with video, head over to orionmedia.group and book a free 20-minute info call. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you on the next episode of the Digital Approach Podcast.